Hello, good evening, good evening. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to Who's Appreciative Anyway with Candace, Victor, and special guest host, Michael Harris. Hello, guys. How are you?
Doing
Hey, how
fine, doing
you
fine.
doing?
Good evening, good
Can you
evening.
hear me? Can you hear
We
me?
can hear, we can hear you.
All right.
Now,
I look
so,
like I'm using it.
Almost took a spill there, folks. Yeah, I'm good, I'm
Uh
good.
oh, oh.
boy, I tell ya,
Oh,
you,
hey,
you,
hey, hey. Candace, did you say action?
you, you get everybody ready for where they're supposed to be, and then right at 5 o'clock they move, and it's just like, what we get here early for?
Right, what happened? What happened was.
Of what
Did
happened.
Brother Vic
Before we get into the topic this week, because remember what we're supposed to discuss this week. Before we get into the topic for this week, I just want to hit a couple of headlines, if you will, before we get into the topic. I don't know if
Yes.
anyone has had the opportunity to see that apparently Vladimir Putin has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I'm just wondering if the definition of peace has changed, or maybe I've missed something.
Thing, don't they?
Mike, take
I
that. That's
mean,
your
the
topic.
CDC has no credibility. The Food and Drug Administration has no credibility. The Republican Party has no credibility, and now the WPO has no credibility. The WHO has no credibility, and now we look up and the Nobel Peace Prize Committee has no credibility. This is
I
crazy. This is
mean, I guess you can't really take their credibility if they didn't give it to him. He's just been nominated, so
but I'm just saying the fact that
very
he would be
outdated.
nominated is a problem in and of itself. What we have right now, and somebody wrote a book, and I can't remember who the author is, but the name of the book is "Everything Trump Touches Dies." Right? Trump touches everything, and whatever he touches right now as the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, he's killing it. He's killing people in America. He's hurting people across the world. He's not he's killing our economy. Trump is a problem. Everything he touches dies. He kills who lets casinos go bad, right? Who goes bankrupt in a casino? They actually literally print money in casinos, and everything Trump touches dies. And this is what's happening in our country now. Democracy is dying, and Putin is standing up saying, "I'm the reason why," and he's going to put a nail in the coffin of democracy if we keep messing around. Look what happened to the Russian guy who, like a fool, wants to go back. But anyway, Putin has poisoned people on British soil,
What are you
on
talking about, Mike? That guy poisoned himself. Remember? What are you talking about?
That's right. He poisoned himself, right? He
Poisoned
hey,
himself. Yeah.
back in the day, gangsters would say you fell out the window on your own.
Mm.
You fell out the
And
window on your own.
don't forget that guy that shot himself in the back of the head.
Oh yeah, he did that himself. He reached around the back of his head with his weapon and shot himself with a rifle in the back of the head.
Right.
This is what happens. Yes, yes. And listen, there are people figuratively shooting themselves in the back of the head, chasing around Trump from state to state, hurting themselves. People have died behind it, a la Herman Cain and other people have died because they're listening to Trump. Everything he touches dies. Putin is his right hand man. Putin runs him, and these people still can't get it. And this is where we're at right now.
Speaking of deaths, impossible deaths, I should say, possible deaths of careers, let's turn our attention to Lindsey Graham. Did anybody have an opportunity to see his Twitter? Well, it was on Fox. His I don't even know what you call it.
I need help. Y'all help me. I'm in trouble, y'all. I
Fox
need
News.
help
He,
me.
he went on Fox News recently and was talking about how before his 13 million that he spent in his state was the highest, and now they've spent more than that to get him out of office.
Well, listen, I know I'm wearing my blue today, and I'm deep blue. But here's what I got to say about Lindsey and some of the other Republicans. Well, by the Democrats, basically. Finally, us Democrats are standing up. Now, let me say this, and I want to be on the record when I say this. I do have a problem with Joe Biden not taking Michigan seriously right now. We need to step up the game in Michigan. And I don't see, and I know y'all signs don't vote, and you can't go by these numbers. People will call folks' homes, and they'll say they're voting for Biden, knowing full well they're voting for Trump. We cannot go by the polls. Do not listen to the polls. You got to go vote now. Just like you did the other day, Candace, we have to go vote now. But what I'm saying is I'm proud of the fact that the Democrats are fighting on people's home turf. Yes, make Lindsey cry. I wanted to give him a mint julep and send him a mint julep. He was whining so bad. Make Lindsey cry. Make Mitch McConnell cry. Put them out of office. And let me say this: Republicans did this to our people back in the day. I remember the senator from Minnesota. I think he was from Minnesota. No, Tom Daschle. In the midst of a fight, the Republicans got him out of office in South Dakota. So listen, this is not above reach that we can get Lindsey out of there, that we can get Mitch McConnell out. Mitch McConnell's got Amy McGrath running in Kentucky. Kentucky and the whole state of Louisville has egg on its face with the Breonna Taylor murder. We have an opportunity in these places to get off of our butts and vote. And there's no reason for us not to put Lindsey out, to put Mitch McConnell out, and even put the Attorney General, when his turn comes up, the one who wouldn't prosecute the police officers in Breonna Taylor's case, we need to put them out too. Listen, for all you people who think it doesn't matter who I vote for, guess what? The Attorney General will not prosecute police officers for killing you. That's at least one reason to go vote. Even the Attorney General is somebody you vote for. Judges are who you vote for. People from top to bottom are who you vote for, even in your local elections. This is half of our problem. Now, this is 2020. I want to talk about this even before we get to this point. Let's say we put Trump out. In 2022, we got to come out even more and get the rest of these senators out so Joe Biden or Kamala Harris can have a great Senate pushing things through and changing laws for us. President Obama only had the Senate and the House for 2 years. We didn't come out in 2010. And we've been suffering for the last 10 years because of Mitch McConnell being in charge of the Senate. The reason the Supreme Court right now is about to go all ziggity boom on this young lady who's about to kill abortion rights. She's about to kill workers' rights, stop unionizations. All these things she's about to do right now because we didn't vote in 2010 and Mitch McConnell's been in since 2010. We got to take back the Senate. So every vote counts, even your local election.
So, Mike, to your point, I agree with everything that you said, right? This we can't underscore enough how important this election is. This is one of the most important elections that I have witnessed in my life. I thought that Obama's election was significant, and it was extremely important. This might even eclipse that particular election, right? Yeah. So much is at stake here. But Mike, I think that this is not your standard election. We're not talking everyday politics here, right? Because essentially, remember 4 years ago, Trump and his cronies had stated that what this is all about is the overthrow of the administrative state. When you look at practically every political institution of consequence, they're attacking and overturning each one of those. It ranges from the rule of law to the Constitution, involving the three branches of government, right? The executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branches. And Candace has said this time and time again, and I agree with her as well, that their long-term goal is to govern and rule this country through the court system. As we all know, Trump has put over 200 judges on the federal bench. Of the 800 that exist, that accounts for a quarter of the federal judges, right, throughout this country. If he remains at this pace, he will place within 4 more years, 400 judges on the bench.
Yes.
That's half
Yes.
of the court. That's important, because the issues
Yes.
of reproductive rights are going to come up. The Voting Rights Act, that's on the chopping block. And need I make reference to Obamacare, which I refer to as the Affordable Health Care Act? Upwards to 30 million Americans in this country will lose health care in the
Right.
event
Right.
that Donald Trump is put back into that White House. What do you think about that, Mike?
Well, listen, you hit the nail on the head, Brother Vic. And one of the issues we got to deal with too, when we talk about what's happening at the state level or other places, if you want your issues to be dealt with at the state level, I'll give you an example. Back in the 90s, Woodrow Stanley from the city of Flint was pushing residency for, let's say, police officers and other people who work in the city, right? Now, we took that all the way to the state Supreme Court in Michigan, the state Supreme Court, and we end up losing. And nobody has revisited this yet. So residency is on the line here.
Oh, yeah.
Abortion is on the line here. If you're a gay brother or sister and you want to get married, your health care for your significant other is on the line here. Make no mistake about it, these people are fanatics, and they care about making sure that court is packed with the judges who are right-wingers who come from the Federalist Society. Now, if you don't know what the Federalist Society is, it's a right-wing organization who does nothing but make sure that people are vetted to be judges at all of these positions that you talk about, Brother Vic, at the federal level, the 200 judges. They got 1,000 people on that list, and they vet them. If you make the wrong choices, if you're letting black people off, if you're being fair, they don't even consider you. These are judges who are doing, in their mind, God's work and making sure that people like us with the census count, you want to go about the census count, and you want to talk about minority set-asides, you want to talk about all the laws, affirmative action, all of these things are on the line right now. If you think you have the right to no search and seizure or no knock warrants, and that you get rid of no knock warrants, believe me, these judges are going to keep that in place. Mitch McConnell, for the last 10 years, has been working on this. And we've got to make sure that this year, at this junction, we don't let that happen. And we're in a bad place right now with the judge situation. I think they're talking about the only thing they could do to slow down the process with Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat is to impeach Trump. Now, that would be like a nuclear option. But the way things are going and what they did to Obama in the last 10 years and wouldn't let him get his votes in, I'm okay with impeaching Trump right before the election, just so we can slow down this process and just so Ruth Bader Ginsburg's wishes could be met, and that when Trump gets out of his bubble, going from city to city and state to state with his buddies and friends, that he can get booed like he regularly should be, and he can be in the real world where people don't like him and don't appreciate him and don't care about him because he's trying to tear America apart.
And you're right, Mike. And with regard to that, think about this. Think about how diverse American society is.
Yes.
As we've been stating for the last couple of years or so, when you look at the shifting demographics in American society, this is really what is driving all of this. And the last piece that pushed the Republicans over the top was the election and the re-election of Barack Obama to the presidency.
Yes.
That did it right there. Then you heard the cries going out that we need to keep our country. We need to get our country back. You need to where did your country go? Where did your country go? Right? That's the question. But I agree with everything you were saying, Mike. In addition to that, police reform is on the chopping block if he gets back in. Affirmative action is on the chopping block if he gets back in, right? He's already in the process of banning diversity training in governmental settings. You ever heard about that? Right.
Yes.
And even organizations and corporations that receive federal funding are banned from putting forth diversity training, and if they do, they'll lose the funding. Right?
Well, look.
But let me make one more point, Mike, and I'll toss it back to you or Candace. Check this out. I say, Mike, to everybody that this is a Custer's last stand here. This is Custer's last
Yes.
stand. Because remember, even during the GOP convention, they made reference to we need to maintain Western civilization. Well, where did it go?
Right.
So you know
Right.
what they're getting at.
Right.
They're really talking about the browning of American society. That's really what they're getting
Yes.
at here.
Right.
So America is only America for certain people. If you have the complexion for the protection, then it's your America. If you don't, it's not.
Well, listen, and I tend to agree with you. I don't even know if this is Custer's last stand. They are pushed back against the wall. They know when it comes to the numbers in places like Texas or Georgia and these states, even Iowa and other places, Arizona, they're losing Arizona, they're losing Denver, and Colorado, they're losing the West, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's sweeping across the country. If the Republicans lose Texas, it's over with for them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I have a philosophy and a theory that racist white men cannot win on merit, right? They can
Mm-hmm.
only
Okay.
win by cheating. They have cheated from day one. So this gets to the point when you talked about diversity training and
Mm-hmm.
keeping America being adhering to its founding principles. Whenever you hear that kind of language,
Mm-hmm.
you have to watch who the author is of that information. So
Mm-hmm.
we know America was flawed, but if I say, listen, America was founded on principles of slavery, people these Republicans would go out and say, well, you don't believe in American principles. Yes, I do. I'm not saying the founding fathers uh, weren't men who were brilliant and smart, but they were flawed, right? They held slaves. At the same time that they're talking about all men are created equal under the law, women couldn't vote. Black people were 3/5 of a person. So to disavow that truth, to not acknowledge that truth, is doing a disservice to what we should be doing in America, is seeking truth, seeking that more perfect union. I again watched the mountaintop speech from Martin Luther King, and nobody really talks about that. They will always want to talk about I have a dream, but every once in a while, I try to rev myself up by listening to the mountaintop speech, because that is a powerful speech, right? That speech brings home what's happening in America. I may not get there with you, but we as a people will see the promised land. Mitch McConnell, the racist entities within the Republican Party, Donald Trump et al., are trying to make sure that America does not see the promised land, because they see no promise in the land being promised to all. They only think it's for them, for themselves, for the racist ideology, for taking over institutions. And think about how Donald Trump has come in just 4 short years and dismantled everything we held dear, that we hold dear as Americans. Listen, Crispus Attucks was one of the first people to die in the Revolutionary War. He was a black man. Black people have fought for every sense of the word that America is all about. We are the conscience of this country. So for somebody to tell me as a black man that my history in this country that I love doesn't matter, that my history in this country that I've fought for and people who look like me have fought to fight for, right? Have died for, that our history doesn't count, that our truth of America doesn't count. I'm not saying the founding fathers weren't brilliant men, weren't smart men, but they were flawed. And we need to break out those flaws and talk about those flaws. Listen, I love my mama. Nobody's above my mama. But if I don't speak truth to my mom about certain things, mama, I don't like that stuff you're cooking right there. Can I get something else? I'm not going to be served properly. We have to be truthful to the people we love. If I love this country, I have to be truthful with it. And we all have to speak truth to power and speak truth to those who would lie and cheat and steal democracy, or what true democracy is, and the founding and the pursuit of a more perfect union. We have to make sure that those peoples are put aside, and their vision of what America is about does not prevail.
And I agree with you, Mike. But I think that the key word that you said here was power. See, I'm inclined to believe that on the left side of the ledger, on the Democratic Party side of the ledger, you have people who are talking about those kinds of principles that you just made reference to. I'm not so sure on the right side of the ledger they're really talking about that they're wearing the thin veneer of democratic principles. But I'm wondering, do they really believe in those democratic principles? Do they really believe in freedom, justice, and equality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Do they really believe in that? So I think this is really about power. To be honest with you, that's really what their belief system and their world view is all about. And they're using their grassroots members and constituents as cannon fodder for what they're doing right here and right now. This comes down to power. Has nothing to do with creating or maintaining the core democratic principles of a country which purports to be a democracy. We both know that it's a democratic republic. We understand that. Which is a representative form of government. But are they really representing the American people? Are they truly, in every sense of the word?
Well. Listen, I'm with you, Brother Vic. I've always stated that the 30%, the 35%, these Trump people that are the racists in America, and those followers like the Attorney General in Kentucky or Candace Owens and the rest of them, those people don't care about democracy, right? Mm-hmm. This is why they can follow Vladimir Putin, and this is why they can align themselves with the dictators around the world. They've never really cared about democracy. They've cared about what you just said, power. Mm-hmm. And you know, you can espouse all the wonderful principles you want. If you're not living those principles, it's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we show up at the polls, or we show up and say, don't kill black folks by the hands of the government, by police officers, when we show up and say, let's not do this, that strikes at the force of their power, right? At the flawed intellect that means, how dare you talk about me as a white person because I know what's best for you. I mean, there's a time and a place where blacks couldn't sit at the lunch counter, right? There's a time and a place where blacks couldn't vote, even though the laws on the books said you could, right? I mean, people would get arrested for sitting at a lunch counter. That was considered a violent act. Now we look forward, and if you're sleeping in your bed, or you're trying to break up a fight of some people that you know, or you just say, I'm leaving, I'm going to my car, you get violence put upon you. You get killed or shot in the back just because you decide, hey, man, I want to adhere to my rights. I've got rights. And we see this happening over and over because the onus is on these racists, and this racist policy is to make sure that we keep people like us down, that we keep black folks out of the mix. You keep them out of the levers of power, because we know how bad we've been doing them for 400 years. They're going to do us the same way. Now, I got a message for people. I want you to understand this. If black people were really as violent as you thought we were, like, we've been and burned down America, right? We are the most forgiving people on the planet. There's no earthly reason why we should love America, right? For what has happened in this country. But we do. We do love America, and we're always fighting for America because we're the conscience of the country. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ken.
Somebody's bringing up this. I don't know if you all have had a chance to hear about the Platinum Plan, that and that's what he's calling it, his $500 billion plan for Black America, for the blacks. And this is Trump's plan. And apparently now they're going to designate the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations. This is my thing. It is amazing what people will do in the 11th hour, because The KKK organization did not just become a terrorist organization, and you did not just become president. You're just
Right.
up for election in November. I don't like that kind of stuff. Don't try to play us. Don't do that. You've been calling them good people on both sides. You've not pushed your attorney general to prosecute any civil cases. I don't like that. That's crazy to me. And then to act like, oh, you've been better for black people. You've probably been the best president for black people since Lincoln. You're touting an unemployment record that belongs to the president that you keep bringing up as if it's bad. You're saying that it's been the lowest before the pandemic. That is Obama's record. Stop it. It's not your record.
Well,
It's
I
Obama's
mean,
record. Hold on.
well, listen.
Then he's talking about how much money he's putting into HBCUs. I think at the end of the day, I don't care if it's coming out of a Republican or a Democrat's mouth. The problems that we have in our community, before it's time for these people to run for office. And the fact that all of a sudden everybody wants to have a magic marker and try to erase centuries of mess that America has been handing black people is pissing me off. And like I said, I don't care whether it's coming from a red or blue person.
Right,
We've
right.
had these problems forever. These people have been in charge of these policies forever. But now all of a sudden everybody has a plan for the blacks. If you don't vote for them, then you ain't black. Or I got a platinum plan and I've been better for you since I'm the best thing that's happened to you since Lincoln. What is
Yeah.
this? What is this? And you're sitting up here
Well,
talking about how much we love America. But the thing is, even in those few statements that I've described, even the fact that I told you, we've had problems with policy before it was time for either one of these two people to be elected. And they've both been in power at some point to change these policies.
yeah.
And now all of
Yeah.
a sudden, everybody's got a magic answer that you haven't had. Stop it. And more importantly, like you just said, oh, we love America so much. Why don't we require America to love us back?
Well, I think that's what reparations is about. That's
I'm
what
not
people.
talking about reparations, Mike. Come on
Well,
now.
no. I'm
They never
just.
going to give reparations. Stop it.
Well,
That's not happening. And I don't care if you put a blue or a red person in there. You're not getting reparations.
well, listen. I'm not one that's touting reparations, but I'm saying that's what people think is the catalyst for loving us back, right? Removing barriers and all these things that go along with that is what it means when you say you love black people or loving us back. But I'm with you. Reparations or any of this stuff, it's hard for people who have hate in their heart to love you back. For people who have lived a lie for 400 years to love you back. It's really hard for them to do.
There's a couple comments because I do want to get in on our Facebook audience because I don't want them to think that we don't see them. Hello to all of you. Hometown Hero said Obama's record, that's a lazy argument. How long will it be Obama's record? Hometown Hero, that's not a lazy argument. Obviously, you don't know what a record is because you wouldn't be asking me how long someone's record will be their record. It's going to be his record for life because he's no longer the president and that's what he's done. Let's look up the definition of record before you try to be insulting Hometown Hero. It's always going to be his record. So your answer to 10 years from now, will that still be Obama's record? It absolutely will still be his record 10 years from now because that's what that means, Hometown Hero. It's his record. What's lazy is the fact that you would comment not knowing what record means. That's what's lazy.
Well, let me say this though, Candace. So we take the good with the bad, right? President Obama inherited an unemployment rate, and he cut it in half, which is about 10 or 11 points, and about eight or 9 points, and that was 8 or 9 points that he took the unemployment rate down. Trump has only cut the unemployment rate by about 2 points or 1.5 points or something like that. And they said he's great. He went from 4 to 3.5 or something like that. And they're saying, well, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Now, somebody cuts something 8 points and somebody else cuts it 4 points, a point and a half, but he's the wonderful one. But you got to take the good with the bad, right? So let's just say it's Trump's world, and yeah, it was his the 1.5 is his rate. Yeah, he cut it from 4 to 3.5 or 3. But this is also his legacy too. This unemployment rate that we have now of 11%, of millions out of work, of million people per week filing for unemployment, that's Trump's record too, and he
And
cannot hide.
Mike, don't forget about the COVID-19 virus,
Well,
man, and the 200,000 deaths. That's on his record too.
absolutely. So,
And he's moonwalking away from that aspect of his record. That is a mistake of
But
colossal
this is the thing,
proportions.
though,
That
because
is a problem, an issue
if you
of
had
colossal
someone
proportions.
who was competent enough to do the job, or at least had people around them who cared enough, all of this
right.
stuff, and I'm in by no way am I defending Donald Trump. We know that, that's never going to happen. But if you had enough competent people around you, then you'd be able to take the fact that people lost their jobs because of a pandemic. Oh, my device is overheating. I'm not sure why. But anyway, you would be able to take the fact that people lost their jobs because of a pandemic. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
explain that unemployment. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to take on so much of this if your leadership would have been good to begin with. That is the problem. You're never going to be able to explain how so many people died on your watch when it could have been avoidable. My device is overheating, so if my phone cuts off, that's what happened. I'm not sure why it's overheating.
Well, this is the problem with Trump. Trump had a chance to be a hero, right, in the midst of this COVID. But everything Trump dies, or everything Trump touches dies. His mentality doesn't allow him to feel empathy for any other human being but himself. So all he cared about at the time was making sure that he was covered. Well, this is not my fault. When he could have been a great hero of America if he said, I'm ushering in a new day. I'm bringing in everybody who wants to fight this thing, and we're going to change the world, America. We're going to fight back COVID. He would be untouchable by Joe Biden right now. But when you are crazy and you deal with lies and innuendo and you deal with propaganda, you're never even capable of telling the truth, which ends up hurting you in the long run. Everything done in the dark will come to light, right? So we're finding out now from Dr. Scott Atlas, who has no ability to even talk about the infectious diseases. He comes from some other doctor's field. He's writing policy right now for the CDC. He's telling Trump, he's in Trump's ear every day, telling Trump, let's do herd mentality. Now I'm using Trump's word, herd mentality, but it's actually herd immunity, where everybody catches it and a certain amount of people are going to die. Sure, that's going to happen, but we get over it in the long run. Trump is so stupid. He's believing this man. He's believing the press clippings. He's believing the propaganda. And this is what happens when you have a dangerous, flawed ideology running the country. Trump and the rest of his people are so messed up. He's putting people in positions like over the CDC to a guy named Michael Caputo, who is a Trump donor. He's over the CDC now, writing policy for the CDC. Now there's some pushback from people in the CDC, but the CDC used to be this wonderful organization. We could trust their judgment and trust what they're saying. Now Trump sycophants like Hometown Hero and the rest of them will talk about the CDC is no good. They'll talk about John Bolton is no good. I mean, look, John Bolton was the quintessential right-wing hawk, and they hate him now. That tells you they've been drinking the Kool-Aid from the Trump administration and following this crazed individual into the abyss and trying to take the country with it. Now, let me say this as far as Americans. We can't allow that to happen. We have got to push back on this Trump ideology. We have got to keep our democracy intact. This man has said he will not leave office. And if you don't believe him, listen to his press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh said, if it's a fair election, the president's going to adhere to whatever the law says. But if it's a fair election, the guy says, wait a minute, what do you mean fair election? If he loses, he should leave, right? She said, well, if it's a fair election. So right off the bat, Trump and his sycophants and Hometown Hero and the rest of them are saying it's not going to be a fair election. Why? because we're going to the polls by mail-in because we don't want to die from COVID. I mean, this is the craziness of Trump's world.
But Mike,
And
Mike,
right now, we've got
Mike,
to tamp that
let me
down.
interject a point. Let me interject a point here, right? And I agree with everything that you're saying, right? But I think in order for us to right the ship, I think that we, the people, it's not just a trite statement. It's not just a slogan or a saying. This is something that's got to happen, right? This has got to happen. If this country is going to be turned around, the American people are going to have to be the ones who are going to turn this country around. How long will it take us to sit idly by on the sidelines and watch Trump, Mitch McConnell, or whoever from either one, for any of these parties, any of these people who are members of the American political establishment? How long are we going to sit idly by and watch them destroy this country unless and until the American people get involved and interject ourselves in the political process ourselves? This country is going down the tubes. Period. So here's the point. Here's the point, Mike. Here's the point. We're fighting massive misinformation. We were talking about that last week. Candace and I were talking about the misinformation. Exactly. Propaganda campaigns that is afoot in this country. And that's really what they're doing. Right. But they're also targeting the African American community with this misinformation as well. So I think you have some agent provocateurs who are taking part in this. Ranging from trying to take over the Black Lives Matter protests and so forth, right? On the one hand, but also I think in terms of conveying the political policies and the messages that are taking place, that are being received in our community, that is under attack too. This massive misinformation taking place with regard to that as well. We are going to have to become actively involved if we're going to turn this thing around.
Well, you know what? For me, and I guess they got something from Hometown Hero. Paul, you want to put that back up? Mr. Vic, can you see that?
Nope.
Oh, Candace is in. Okay, Candace is in. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So listen, you're exactly right, Brother Vic. Think about this. These agent provocateurs are nothing new, right?
Yeah.
They've always interjected people into the mix to make us look bad. That's what happened to the Black Panthers. COINTELPRO. If you don't believe me, Tuskegee experiment. We have this thing going on for decades. We got hardcore evidence that this happens, right? Now, I'm with you. Like, they've activated me on Facebook, right? I've seen so many black people that look like me and you, Minister Vic, talking about they're all the same and Trump might be okay. I'm like, I've been watching you on Facebook for years. The only thing you've ever put up is videos about dogs and your babies and kids, and all of a sudden you're a Trumper this year? Where's that coming from? Right? And I think some of these people are being paid. I think some of them are being lied to. I think some of them are believing the propaganda, because you listen, I always go back to this. There were some black people who willingly fought for the Confederacy. Now, everybody today would know they were stupid and they were dumb and they were wrong, but they believed that that they were on the right side, that white people would continue to be in charge, and I want something for me. And I find out that most of the black people that look like you and me who are doing this are doing something for themselves, not for us as a whole. That's why. And then they can use them as cover for racists to use their ideology against the rest of us. Now, I like to say this because whenever somebody tells me, well, Candace Owens says something, what about what Candace Owens says? And then I like to point out somebody white who said what I believe in. Well, Bernie Sanders said what I said. Well, he's white too. What does that mean? Just because you bring out somebody black who agrees with you and this racist ideology doesn't mean all black people have to even listen to that person, let alone that person's opinion even matters to us. Just like you don't care about Bernie's opinion, we don't care about Candace Owens' opinion. And that negates itself. So take race out of it, and let's just talk about what the truth is. The truth is this in America. Right now, Black Lives Matter is out there protesting against police brutality. Now, let me say this as an American. I pay taxes. So I'm paying for brutality to be put upon me as an American citizen. That is not the way we should be addressing that. And as an American, I will not tolerate being brutalized by police officers who are supposed to uphold the law as a taxpayer. Now, if y'all can't even understand nothing else, just understand the fact that black folks pay taxes, and it's relative to our income. We pay more taxes than anybody in the country. So I'm not going to be paying taxes for somebody to brutalize me. That is an American right to protest. Now, when you bring in your people, the Boogaloo Boys, and shoot people down or create trouble, smashing windows, then the rest of us have to stay up and talk about that. And when you smash windows on Facebook, on the internet, figuratively smashing windows, and start talking about Trump, we have to start knocking that down. So I'm with you, Brother Vic. They've activated me.
Say, Mike, since you brought that up, let me pose this question to you. What did Hitler do to his brown shirts? After he used them as his strong-armed thugs, what did Hitler do with his brown shirts? He kicked them to the curb. I'm sure had certain of them executed. Even though they worked on his behalf and helped him rise to power.
Because you can't have these crazies around you, because they're gonna mess the war up. Listen, and we understand that even in our community, we got some brown faces that we might have to get rid of.
So really quickly though, and I'm glad we are here because it brings us to what we were supposed to discuss this week. I remember last week we talked about why, or the discussion on why. I can't remember if it was Hometown Hero or Commish, whom it was. But they pointed out that you did have a large segment of, hold on, Mike, wait. Do you have a segment, I'll put it that way, of black men who are voting for and want to support Trump?
I'll raise that point,
and I know that they were asking that, Vic, can you hear me?
Yeah. I had raised that point last week.
That was you?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we were supposed to talk about this week is why that is happening, or why it's what black men are unhappy with as far as the Democratic Party goes. And I know that Vic had some points that he raises often, just in terms of black men in America, period. So Vic, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I thanks for bringing this point back up, because let me just preface my statement by saying this, Mike. I am going to vote for Joe Biden. There's no question about this. But I think that when we look at the political landscape, and when I just look around our community and people that I know, right, there are some people who are raising some points that are cutting across the grain. I think what is happening, Mike, is that the political landscape, the political ground is shifting. It's really shifting. And I can't think of a time, to be honest with you, in recent memory, whereby I've heard so many people, particularly black people, criticizing the Democratic Party. They certainly are. Many of them have already been criticizing the Republican Party, but increasingly, I'm hearing more people who are speaking out against the Democratic Party for a variety of different reasons here, right? And I brought this book with me, Mike. I just want to read a real quick passage. It's a book that was written by Cornel West, called Prophetic Fragments. And he's making reference in this book to something that started, he would say, back in 1975, because he makes reference to a book that was written by Thomas Sowell, the black conservative economist, right? The brother is a public intellectual. I don't agree with many of his statements, but he is a well-known public intellectual. But let's hear what Cornel West says very quickly here in his book about the emergence of Thomas Sowell and others like him. He says that the publication of Thomas Sowell's Race and Economics in 1975 marked the rise of a novel phenomenon in the United States, a visible, and listen to these words, Mike, a visible and aggressive black conservative assault on traditional black liberal leadership. The promotion of conservative ideas is not new in Afro-American history. The preeminent Black conservative of this century is George S. Schuler. So I don't want to go more so into that, but he's raising a variety of different points. And what he was saying is that when Thomas Sowell wrote the book Race and Economics in 1975, essentially what Thomas Sowell was doing was throwing down the gauntlet. It was a hegemonic move in order to reclaim the position of leadership in Black America. And he lists a variety of different persons, right, who also fit this bill. He mentions people such as Glenn C. Laurie, Shelby Steele.
Shelby Steele, sure.
Let me finish here. He mentions Walter E. Williams. He mentions J.A. Parker. He mentions Robert Woodson. He mentions Joseph Perkins. He mentions a variety of different persons. And what we are witnessing here is something, to be honest with you, which really is a part of our history. It's part and parcel of Black American history. Remember, Harold Cruz, the preeminent historian, says that when you look at political debates in Black America, it has always come down to two traditions. On the one hand, it's been the conservative tradition, and the iconic figure that he raises up is Booker T. Washington, right? So you have Booker T. Washington and the self-help school of thought. On the other hand, you have the renowned W.E.B. Du Bois, who embraced and led the protest traditions. But what Cruz says is that you've always had this taking place, and it's taking place right now, even when you make reference to Cornel West on the one hand and Thomas Sowell on the other. But essentially, what I believe and what Cruz was espousing is that what we need to do is synthesize the best ideas. But with that having been said, Mike, going back to Candace's point, and I flip the mic back over to you after this statement right here. Sure. There are people, young and old alike, in the Black community who are increasingly criticizing the policies of the Democratic Party, and they're calling their policies into question. Some of them are moving over to the Republican Party. Some of them are advocating for a third party, right? Some of them are, and I certainly wouldn't do this, are advocating that people not vote for the presidency, but vote on the down ballot. That's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard, right? But still, I think that beyond demonizing Donald Trump further, what we need to do is to talk about policy issues and talk about economic issues as well as relates to these men who are raising these points. What do you say, Mike?
Well, okay, so there's a lot to chew on there, and I think you make a lot of good points. First of all, let's just talk about real numbers. All right, so if we're talking about all these Black people who are supporting Trump or whatever, it ain't that many. So, for example, 95% of Black women are supporting the Democratic Party. 90% of Black men are supporting the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. Now, so 92% of Black people, 92% of Black people support the Democratic Party and support Joe Biden. Let's talk about those numbers first. So this little bit of 1% here and there, or whatever people want to talk about, they get elevated because racist white folks don't believe in affirmative action, but they do believe in it for racist Black folks who hate themselves. See, if I want to be a Black person like Shelby Steele, how do I know these names? How do I know about Walter Williams? Because they get elevated to some kind of godlike status by the white intelligentsia in the Republican Party because they are speaking these things that most Black people just really don't understand. And they're so high above everyone else, which is not the truth. Listen, at its core, Black people are conservatives. We want to be conservatives. We care about babies. We care about the law. We care about God. We care about our country and our babies and everything else. But this country, the racists won't allow us to do that properly, so we have to go to the liberal side, which is also another part of what you would call conservatism. We want you to live your life the way you want to. You want to be gay, do your thing. You want to be doing this, do your thing. And we're also, if people want to say that's liberal, that's conservative. We want to stay out of your business. Hey, man, mind your own business. That comes from Black people in the way we even think or walk or talk. Hey, man, that person was wrong. He should have minded his own business. Even when you talk about something as silly as what happened with Jussie Smollett, Black people, we know the smell test. That don't look right. Something ain't right about that. We're conservative when it comes to that. But these racist ideology people will not allow us to live our conservative lives. So they have to put people forward like Candace Owens and others who have a flawed mentality because they have to uplift this racist ideology. Now, let's also talk about another part of this. Look, we can talk all day about the 1% or 2% of black folks who are elevated and get affirmative action and were put forward by white folks because they are one black voice in a wilderness of black people who disagree with them. But look at all the Republicans. You have never, ever seen this many Republicans come to the Democratic side. So this week, Cindy McCain, of all people, the wife of John McCain, a soldier's wife, decided to come and support Joe Biden.
Cindy should have came a long time ago after he said what he said about John.
But that's what
no doubt.
These people know doggone well that they want to be Republicans, but they cannot support this crazy ideology. And I'm hardened by that. Let me just say this one more thing. If you want to really talk about where the defections are and where the turmoil is, it's in the Republican Party. They had 500 generals and people came from the DI, the Director of National Intelligence, Homeland Defense, and everything else you could imagine, who came out the other day and said they're not supporting Trump. Soldiers. He's losing the military vote. That's why he's desperate. He's got to call on his buddy Putin. So we got to be very careful and look at where the true turmoil is. It's in the Republican Party. People are defecting every day. And we want to talk about 1 or 2% of black men who are propagandized and elevated. Come on, man. I don't think that's the point.
Let me raise this point here, Mike.
Oh my God, I gotta read this comment. Hold on, I just want to read this comment real quick. Affirmative action is racist because it's based upon the idea that black people are something less and therefore need a helping hand to get into high-end colleges. I strongly disagree. We all know that's not what affirmative action was.
But hold on. Affirmative action, the people benefit most from affirmative action are white people.
It was white women. But his point was affirmative action was racist because he's not even correct on why affirmative action was put in place.
These are the sycophants who are the Trumpsters, who are the racists. He's a true racist who wants to talk about it. But guess what? Shelby Steele, Candace Owens, and all these other people, he'll give them affirmative action and affirm their actions and make them rise in the Republican Party and start talking about them because they fit his agenda. But that's affirmative action. We don't want affirmative action. We just want to be treated fair as black folks.
There you go. But you made my point, Mike. I think that when you take the average black person doesn't want a handout. That's ridiculous, and that's beneath our privilege, man. All we want that's all we want is a fair playing field. That's it. Period.
It's clear.
You saw what happens when we get a fair playing field.
I think it's clear from everything that black people have been able to accomplish in this country, with all of the disparities and inequities and inequalities that they face, and they still managed to rise to the top of so many fields that they were once left out of. I think it's plain as day that black people don't want to hand out. And I don't think that was necessarily what Hometown Hero was saying. He wasn't saying that black people wanted to hand out. I don't think that you guys kind of understood the statement. What I'm saying is, he's not saying that black people wanted to hand up, but what he is doing is twisting what affirmative action was for. Affirmative action was an alleged step at getting rid of some of the disparity and inequity that happened. Because we can't. It was basically like what a law does. Because we can't regulate your heart. Because we can't control your heart, we have to regulate your character. Because you won't just automatically hire people on your own. Now we got to make you make space for people who are perfectly qualified any other time. But now we got to make you make space because you won't just act right. That's what affirmative action was. And even then, in that, like Mike said, all of a sudden they decided to take the term minority and turn it into, there aren't a lot of white women here, so they're the minority in this building as well. So they qualify for affirmative action.
Right. And you know, Candace, one of my biggest problems with that whole ideology is the point you mentioned. Listen, it's about a century long, and this is talking about after slavery, centuries long Jim Crow laws that discriminate against black folks in jobs and unemployment and contracts and things like that. So it was just trying to level the playing field. So if you and I are running a race, Candace, and your shoes are tied, I got bandages on your knees, I put your lane further out and you got further to run, and then I say, you know what, listen, what I'm going to do is make sure that you are equal to me now. I'm going to put you in the same lane. We're going to untie your shoes. We're just righting the wrongs. We're going to put you back to square one. And then you got to make your own way. Listen, I have no problem with people saying, because I've been in this place many times, saying we need a black voice here. I've been the only black voice in many rooms. All of you have, right? Kansas, I'm sure you've been the only black voice in many rooms. Brother Vic, you've been the only black voice in many rooms. And had it not been for your voice, things would have gone differently in those particular meetings. I think it's important to have a diversity of opinion. Diversity is our strength in America, not a crutch. Affirmative action helped us. Now let me say this.
Mike, I got to stop you right there, Mike. We're getting away from where Candace wanted us to address.
Thank you, Mike.
A particular issue.
Thank you, Vic.
I got to bring you back to this, man. Yeah,
okay.
No problem. See, once again, I'll go back to my statement. The political ground is shifting. My view, folks, is that no matter what the outcome of this election is, whether Trump gets back into the Oval Office or whether Biden defeats him, I maintain that the political ground is shifting. And let's start with the black community, because I have it in recent memory seeing the numbers of black people that I know about and have been witnessing nationwide who are reassessing their relationship to both the Democratic Party, the Republican Party in particular, and the American political landscape in general, right? And I think that's a healthy thing though, Mike. But once again, hypothetically speaking, if we're talking to these brothers and sisters who are reassessing their relationship to these parties and they're looking at their situation, their pocketbook, their wallets, their purses, they're saying, you know what? I know who this guy in the White House is, okay? We know how he gets down. However, how about addressing my economic realities? How about addressing my employment and underemployment realities? How about addressing my school realities, the school that my children and nieces and nephews go to and whatnot? How about addressing those issues? Because I maintain that what they are talking about is bigger than Donald Trump, is bigger than Joe Biden. Because like I said, no matter who wins this race, they're still going to raise these questions, Mike. And rightfully so. So aside from pointing out the obvious regarding Donald Trump, what do you say to these brothers and sisters who are raising these questions as it relates to the economy, as it relates to the black condition in this country?
All right, so
what do you say
let me say
about that?
Well, let me say this.
Policy issues.
Sure,
Mike,
sure.
Policy issues.
Well, let me say this. The main thing we were talking about, affirmative action, came around as a result of the movement of the 60s, right? So we've been here before. I'm not thoroughly convinced that the political ground is shifting that much.
It's shifting, bro.
I think. Well, let me say this. There's a new generation that is awakening, but there was a monumental shift in the 60s, right? In the 50s and 60s and early 70s. Why we have the policies we have today. Now, we can talk all we want about marching and everything, but I do not see the policy coming out of it like you did in the 60s and 70s, and that's where we see the shifting happen. There's a lot of rhetoric.
Mike, I hear what you're saying, but I'm putting the onus on the Democratic Party. What message is the Democratic Party delivering to the black community? And if they got one, they need to unearth it and need to present it, man.
Well, let me say this.
The Democrat in a pandemic, but Biden got to come out. Biden's got to go to the people, man. He got to go to the people.
Well, you raised three things. First of all, I agree with you. He does. But secondly, let me raise this point. We always want to talk about Democratic Party. We want to beat up on the Democratic Party, right? Because here's why we do that.
But Mike, we're talking about the black voter here. The black voter who is potentially defecting from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party or the Independent Party, or creating a third party.
Who's in charge right now? The Republican Party and Donald Trump.
But
right?
Mike, these are people who traditionally
Let me
have
let me
voted Democrat. I'm not talking about the Republicans as much as I am talking about the Democrats, because these people are potentially leaving the Democratic Party.
Hey Vic,
no,
Vic,
no,
Vic,
listen,
Yeah,
listen.
Vic,
Let me
let him get in here. Let him finish his
all
point.
right, so let me ask you this question. So here's the problem we have, and it's a familiarity issue. The Democratic Party listen to black folks. There are black people at every level, all the way up. We've had a black president at the highest level of our party, and we've got a black woman at the second level to our party. To act as though the Democratic Party doesn't listen to the wants and whims and move black people into a process of being a part of the party is wrong, in my opinion, and not even just my opinion. Look at the facts. But here's the issue: because the Republicans don't even want to listen to our black behinds, we start beating up on the people who most likely will listen to us. Now, I'm not saying that the Democratic Party don't need some smacking around every once in a while, but they're not the problem. We are vested into that organization. We are into that organization. If we're going to infiltrate the Republican Party, who's the ones that are putting the most damage on us, why don't we run roughshod over them? They're the ones passing laws. Why don't we get black people to run against Mitch McConnell like we're doing in South Carolina against Lindsey Graham? And he's screaming and hollering like he needs his men Julep because he needs help from black folks. But Jamie is winning down there and doing a great job because black people are coming to the rescue in the Democratic Party in South Carolina. So let's not act like we can only just keep. There's a mad rush of black folks running away from the Democratic Party. Half the time, some of these black folks running away because there's so much competition for black people being in the Democratic Party. So they run to the Republicans because there ain't no competition there. They're going to get affirmative action right off the bat. So I tend to agree with you. Listen, they're close. They're family. We're invested. We're always a part of the Democratic Party.
But I guess,
that's why it's easy for us to beat up on them.
Real quick though, Mike, okay, because I just want to put out, even what we've seen locally, it was amazing how when everybody needed to be elected, they were, they were marching and they were kneeling and they were Cupid shuffling and they were doing all of this stuff with black people. Right. Then after the election is over, you don't hear or see them doing anything. You don't see them coming out saying, hey, remember I said I heard you and now I've changed the policy. I think the point that Vic is trying to make is, and again, I preface this by saying I voted yesterday and we already know how I voted. But right. It doesn't change the fact that policy is the issue here. We don't need you to keep building these spaces, saying you hear us, saying you see us, but it's just lip service and you go back and none of the policy changes. And our lives don't look any different from day to day than they were. And then you have the policy that does roll downhill is literally the ish rolls downhill and not the money. You know what I'm saying? And so right. I think what Vic is saying, and to his point of why you have so many people that are willing to consider a third party and are even willing, I can't personally wrap my mind around why anyone will vote for Donald Trump because he's been so hate-filled. I told you the minute he opened his mouth the first time he was running, it was an absolutely not for me, because you will not say something divisive and think I will cheer you on, because I am not of the belief that if you do something hateful to them, you won't do it to me. If you're hateful, you're hateful, and it doesn't matter who it's going to be toward. But what I'm saying is, I to Vic's point of, are you really closely examining, is the Democratic Party closely examining, are Democrats really closely examining why so many people in the party, particularly black people, are so unhappy?
Well, listen, like any bad marriage, there's always some unhappy. Right?
But exactly, but why do we have to be in a bad marriage? Why does it have to be a bad marriage?
And what about addressing their issues?
No, and by addressing, we don't mean, oh yeah, I hear you, or we don't mean you get a room full of other white people and you talk to 12 black people saying, we see you, we hear you, and then you go back home. By addressing issues, we mean change that policy and enforce it. That is addressing an issue. That is addressing an issue.
So you know this as a policy wonk, as a policy pusher, a policy pusher. You can't get any policy pushed in American politics without the proper methodology, right? And so with that policy, we can talk all day as black folks. But if you're not going up to Lansing in Michigan or Duluth in Minnesota or excuse me, Minneapolis or St. Paul in Minnesota or these other places to the state capitals, to the city centers, and meeting and sitting down, writing out policy. Listen, black folks, you ain't making nothing happen if you don't put it on paper. I want y'all to know that. You have to have the policy in place. So what do you want? Do you want the right here in Flint, Michigan?
So, but then here's my question, though, right?
Can I get this point? Right here in Flint, Michigan, we changed the ombudsman law that was put in place in the 70s, getting to Vic's point and my point about the 60s and the sweeping policy changes. In the 70s, we changed the city charter, that we had a police commission, a citizen police commission. We got rid of all of that because black people were not adhering and listening to the policy and moving and pushing that policy forward. You can't just talk about, I want y'all Democrats to do what y'all want them to do, unless you bring us a policy to the table. We can't just bring our votes. I agree with you, but we need to bring that policy to the table.
But Mike, I gotta say this, man. If I were one of those persons that I'm making reference to who was sitting on the fence and they still don't know who they're going to vote for, I do believe that the majority of the people in this country, they know just about who they're going to vote for. But there is a minority. There is a small segment of people who are still on the fence. What is your elevator speech? What is your political pitch to those persons, those black persons who are on the fence, who are saying, you know what, y'all got to show me something in terms of policy to draw me back?
Y'all know my speech, right? Like as a soldier, as a basketball player, like this, we're in the final quarter, man. We ain't got time to argue right now. Let's get the game won. First of all, let's get the game won. Then we can argue for the next 4 years about policy. And let me give you an example.
Mike,
I agree with you on that, Mike.
I'm gonna sit at home.
There's people who disagree with that,
pitch,
though.
Mike. I'm gonna sit at home with that pitch.
Let me give you one example. President Obama said, "Hey, y'all got to push me forward." In 2008, he said, "Listen, y'all got to come out and do some things. I need your help. I need you to push this thing. I'm dealing with some racists who are aligned against me. And if y'all don't wait careful for the next to 2020, he said this in 2009, we'd be looking for 10 years of nothing working for us because y'all ain't come out and vote." So in 2010, we didn't listen to Obama, and he lost everything. He lost the House. He lost the Senate. And we lost, and listen to that. First of all, you got to do number one, the thing that Trump and the rest of them are telling you not to do is vote. Now, if I told all black folks tomorrow, hey, y'all can't vote. Just keep your dumb behind at home. You can't vote no more. Your vote's taken away. Guess what? All them Negroes will go running to go vote because they don't think it's something. And right now, oh man, my vote, it don't really count. It don't matter. Well, hey, look, I'm tired of trying to convince you. There's a whole bunch of people sitting on the fence. They're okay, and we're gonna get them out there and get the people who want to get out there to vote.
But Mike,
listen, let me say it like this.
Let me make this point real quick.
But that's how you end up with a Trump presidency that you claim you don't want, by saying you don't have time. That's how you end up with it.
Well, listen.
That's still not addressing their concerns, Mike. It's not addressing their issues.
Listen, you cannot be a bird in the hand, be two in the bush. There's people.
Wow. All you did was just say that they don't matter to you. That's what you just said.
I didn't say that. We ain't got time to argue with these folks. Listen, there's a young lady right now who wants to vote.
Okay.
Who doesn't have a ride to the polls, who doesn't know how to really get to vote, but she wants to vote, but she ain't never really had time. I'm gonna try to find her. I'm not gonna argue with Paul Murdoch and Tamiko Chapman and the rest of these black folks who want to argue about Trump.
So Mike, so you're saying that their opinions don't matter then, Mike? You're saying that their opinions don't matter. These are potential voters. Some of whom have been Democratic voters in the past, Mike. And they're saying the
Mike,
was gone.
I think what happens is, but Mike, the same way that we look at our conservative counterparts, or we look at our Republicans or whomever, and we say to them, You can't just decide, okay, this is what I want my way, and you keep going, because that's part of the problem. There is Republicans are literally moving full steam ahead with their plan, not caring about anything else. You can't say to them, no, you can't do that, and then you just get on here and you basically say what they say.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
clarify.
I'm gonna say it again because I'm gonna reiterate the point.
Okay.
There's an older lady, there's an older man, there's a young person who doesn't really know how to vote and really wants to vote. You've got to activate your base and those individuals who you have. And that's why Trump goes around from country to country, from city to city and state to state to activate his base and get them motivated, right?
I think the thing is that he realizes, let me tell you, the thing is that he realizes is that he's not getting any more than what he has. So he capitalizes on what he has. The difference is the Dems have an opportunity because the rhetoric is different to get more people. However, they drop the ball because the strategy is not changed, and because you can't keep saying we want to be inclusive, but then not actually include people. Trump has to stick. Wait, hold on. Trump, I'm talking about, and my words of not include people are based off of what you just said. Forget them. A bird in the hand beats two in the bush. That's what you said.
Get them. I didn't say
you said that.
That's
Mike.
what you said.
You said let him eat cake.
So
what I'm saying is Trump is working. Hold on, Mike, and I'm gonna let you finish. 1 second, I'm gonna let you finish. Trump is literally working all that he has to work. We know his base is going to be his base. He's not going to get any more people. If anything, he is more in a position to lose people. But what I'm saying to you is the Dems, the worst thing that's going to happen to the Dems on election day is not that people go out and vote for Trump against Biden, is that people don't go out and vote at all. That's the worst thing that's going to happen for the Dems. So you saying that what they're talking about doesn't matter leads to the worst case scenario for the Dems.
Here's why I disagree with you. Our base is bigger than their base, right? So I'm just talking about numbers. I'm gonna be.
She just said that.
Right. I did. I don't think Mike.
Right. So hold on. I'm gonna be cold-hearted about numbers. People came out and voted for Barack Obama, right? Why did they do that for Barack Obama? They were motivated, right?
Right.
And those voters had the same concerns. And some of them, you still hear the same people talking about that. I'm not talking about this individual who says, "Listen, I'm not quite sure which side I need to go on, a Trump voter." Or if a person right now, in my opinion, a black person, can't decide whether they want to vote for Joe Biden or Trump, you cannot waste your time arguing with that person.
I don't agree.
No.
I don't agree.
Listen.
So basically, hey Vic, basically, if they ain't voting for Joe Biden, they black. That's what.
No. Here's what I'm saying.
Agree with Joe. Mike agree with Joe.
What I'm saying is we're in the 11th hour, and so politically, you can spend a certain amount of time on certain people, right? And every political organization makes this calculation. There are 5 individuals: a heavy voter, a true voter for you, a person who's a likely voter. All these things go down the line. Now you're talking about somebody who's not a likely voter, or maybe likely voter. You can't argue and waste your time in the 11th hour.
That wasn't my scenario, Mike. That wasn't my scenario. I was talking about voters. I'm talking about voters.
But you're missing my point. That's what it's come to.
That's not my point. That's not my point at all.
Then the numbers that you're saying are so minuscule.
No, Mike, that's a qualitative statement, man. That's not based on research. That's not based on research.
It's a hypothetical.
That's a hypothetical statement.
If I've got 3 people on this hand and 2 people on this hand, I can convince these likely voters, people who need a ride to vote. I can convince those 3 people, but I've got 2 over here that I'm going to waste time arguing with. I can't do that right now. I've got to get those 3 voters to the polls by whatever means I can get them to. This is just a political calculus right now. And this is our problem sometimes as black folks. We spend so much time talking to Pookie and Ray Ray, and they ain't gonna vote.
You need to talk to Pookie and Ray Ray, man. They got votes.
No, they don't.
Yes,
no,
they
don't.
do. Yes, they do.
Who
They got
don't
votes.
vote?
They're registered.
Let me tell you what happened one time in an election I had. I was running for city council, and I ran for a spot. There was a neighbor of mine down the street. Now, she sit on her porch all day and, smoke her blunt and do her thing. And I talked to her at 7:30 in the morning. She sat on the porch about 7:30. And then, I came in. I said, hey, you better get out there and vote. You need a ride or something? No, I'm all right. My boyfriend, when he get here, he going to be there and blah, blah, blah. So then I came back about 10 o'clock. Hey, oh, no, I'm okay. I'm going to go and vote when noon hit. I talked to her 5 times. And by the afternoon, when I drove up to her house, she walked in the house. This is about 6 o'clock. I wasted my time talking to her. She wasn't going to vote no matter what.
So she represents all the people who have questions about the Democratic
Party.
I'm
just making a point.
She represents
I'm making a point.
Right?
No. What I'm saying is...
So in essence, you're saying their vote doesn't count. That's what you're saying, Mike. No, I love you like a brother, man, but you're saying they don't count. That's what you're saying. No,
did I say words that they don't count? I'm saying we got
pretty much. Because you haven't answered my question yet, man.
All right, so you cannot continue to go searching for people who are not going to vote. There are people, there are millions of voters who will vote if all you have to do is touch them. Now, we have a political calculus in the political world. It's talking about 3 times. You got to touch somebody 3 times. So there's so many people right now who will vote, who will likely vote. All they need is to be talked to.
Candace, the Dems need to hire Mike. The Dems need to hire Mike, man.
No, I'm speaking the truth. Listen, there's some people who will not vote. You know why they won't vote? Man, ain't nobody come to my door. I vote all the time, but if ain't nobody come to my door, I ain't vote for them. Oh, you know what? Billy Joe came to my door. That's the only reason I voted for him. I don't even like who are none of the candidates, but he the only one came to my door. But guess what? They went to Billy Joe's door. That's what you have to do politically. You have to touch people 3 times.
But Mike, I'm glad you said that, because I don't see a presence here, man. I don't see a presence in Genesee County. I don't see a presence in Flint for the Democratic Party. You know what, Mike? The first sign I saw, guess what the first sign was that I saw earlier this week? You guessed it. It was a Trump sign. It was a couple of Trump signs in neighborhoods inside the city of Flint. I haven't seen not one Biden-Harris sign.
That's weird though, because Vic, I've seen both signs. I've seen both. Yeah, I've seen both.
I've seen Trump, man.
I want to agree with you. The presence is not what it should be. Now, let me say this. There's a problem there, and I totally agree with you. I think some of the people are making a political calculus that they've already got Michigan locked up. That's a problem. Ooh. And I'm going to say this about my party.
That's a mistake.
That's a problem. That's a mistake. We should play this game out. I don't care if we're up by 30. Mm-hmm. We should play like we're behind by 10, right?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. I think there's a move afoot by Trump voters to lie to the pollsters, right? They do this kind of stuff. I don't know if they believe in the polls or not, on the people on the ground. I know people are motivated, but I agree with you. I've seen some Biden signs, but I ain't seen enough of them. There were Obama signs everywhere. You would think that with a black woman on the bottom of the ticket, I'd be just grabbing yard signs just to make sure I'm part of history, right? But people aren't doing that, and that's a problem with the Democratic Party. Now, let me say this too, though. Remember, we're in the middle of COVID. How do you hand out signs? Do you have one place for people to go pick them up? There is an issue that we're missing in the middle of this COVID thing, with being able to knock on doors and do that ground.
Well, if that's the case, though, if you're saying that they're not really, because one thing that I will tell you that I know happens for sure is if they feel like your area is locked up and you're going to vote for them no matter what, they won't put effort or dollars into campaigning in your area. And also,
that's a problem.
Somebody in the comment section said that you were right as far as time needs to yield results. So as far as like not wasting time on people who are not going to go vote anyway. They said you were correct because it needs to yield results. But I do want to say, I think that is a dangerous move, because what happens when you feel like you've got an area locked up and they're going to go vote for you anyway, that's how, I'm not saying they're going to go vote for Trump, but what happens is you then end up with people who don't vote at all. And that's and that is the thing that the Dems are going to have to combat. They're not going to have to combat with losing votes to Trump. They're going to have to combat with losing voters who just aren't going to go vote.
Well,
and that's what happened in 2016, y'all. That's what happened.
Listen,
right? In 2016.
I agree with y'all on that. But they're not quite the same things. But I do agree with you. Listen, you put money into Flint. You put money into Detroit. We lost by 10,000 votes to the state of Michigan. That's Pontiac, Flint, Detroit, Saginaw, Ben Harbor, Muskegon Heights. That's all those votes right there that he can go up with. Now, I think they think, and let me say this too. I think Biden is looking for online presence, TV presence, and trying to motivate some of those workers. Some of those voters. They've got another problem here too. White women, right? They've got to motivate these white women and get them out to vote. And they kind of feel like, well, we got a few votes with black folks and we ain't gonna worry about them so much. And that's a problem. I do agree with you, both of you, on this. Of that, we can agree. There needs to be more of a presence in Flint, Michigan, in Detroit, in Ben Harbor, and also in Midland and Kent County.
Pontiac, Saginaw.
Okay, but here's the thing. Vic and I didn't turn it into you need to campaign to black people only thing. You kept saying that. We just said where was the presence, period.
That's right.
We meant Midland. We meant all those other places. That's what we were saying is where's the presence, period.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that. They got to spend more money.
You know what I'm hearing, y'all? You know what I'm hearing, though? Mike and Candace, you know what I'm hearing? I've heard some people from the Democratic Party say this about the Michigan Democratic Party. Could it be that there's rumblings of discontent in Paradise as a result of who was chosen as Biden's running mate versus the person that they thought?
Let me tell you, can I say what Mike is going to say before you say it? Can I say what Mike is going to say before you say it?
What's he going to say?
We're not going to get into those Russian tactics where you try to make it seem like the party is divided and we're not all on one accord. We're all on one accord. That's why we're working and we're voting and we're going blue. Yes, the party does work a little harder, but we're going to bring home this victory.
No, listen. Hey, let me say this, Candace. I see you on Facebook with your blue on, looking like a deep blue, talking to your AKA Mrs. Harris, talking to her, buddied up and lined up like everybody else. Now, let me say this.
By the way,
can I pause you?
She needs to hire Candace.
Can I pause you there?
Can
I pause you there? Because there were some gross inaccuracies in everything you just described. Okay?
All right, what's that?
Let me pause you. You ready? First of all, I wasn't in line. I was there specifically as someone to greet her. Second of all, when I talked to her, I did what you do when you talk to an elected official. One, because she's still a senator. Let's be clear. She can still introduce bills and everything else. So let's be clear that vice president or no, she's still a senator, right? And then two, not only is she still a senator, but she's running to be the next vice president. So if she is the next vice president, guess what I'm going to do? What's important to me? What do I talk about all the time? I talk about infrastructure. I talk about the environment, correct? I talk about I talk about a living wage. I talk about making sure we get homes for those experiencing homelessness. I talk about all of those things that I say on this show. I've never deviated in the 3 years that I've done this show. And so when I got in front of Senator Kamala Harris, who is still going to be a senator, whether she's the vice president or not, the conversation was recorded and you can hear me asking her about infrastructure and what they were going to do. So
let's give Candace a hand. We want to give you a hand, Candace. Great job.
Whatever. So before you bring up a Facebook picture and try to take it out of context, Deep Blue, put it in the full context. I, as an American citizen, someone with a vote that they wanted went and talked to them, correct? Or same thing I do every week. The same way I talked about infrastructure, I didn't waste time with her, and I know you didn't call me AKA watch it, but I didn't waste time with her saying or shooting the breeze. You can listen to the conversation. I literally started talking to her about infrastructure. I literally started talking to them about what is your plan for that? What are you doing? That was my conversation.
You had on your blue and you were doing your thing. You look like you're a true Democrat.
Hey, I had on my blue because my blue dress was I absolutely did have on a cute blue dress. And it's not like I have never once denied what party I belong to, nor have I ever once held them up about when I was unhappy about them, right or wrong.
That's right.
Wrong. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
There's a reason that you get called deep blue and I don't. Because you are so entangled that you act like everything's great, nothing's wrong. It's lovely.
So let me ask you this question. You were motivated by others, but you were in the mix. You in the mix. I ain't saying you were just in the rope line or nothing. You in the mix of everything. You got connections. I ain't saying you don't. But what I also said no to is Kamala Harris motivated you as an individual to be a part of the process, right?
Got it. Yep.
Now,
I'll give you that.
That's why they've been sending Kamala out to Detroit and Flint. Now we need more of that. Don't get me wrong. But we need yard size too. Now let me say this about me. I'm tired of them contacting me. They've contacted me every single day. I know, Brother Vic, I don't know if your phone been blowing up.
I get a lot of calls all day, every day. I get a lot of calls.
So we get text messages from different groups.
I get calls, text messages, emails all day.
So listen, the work is being done by several organizations to put the word out. We need your vote in the Black community, to people who do vote, to young millennials like Candace and Gen Xers like me and Vic. So I
baby boomer.
Oh wow! Ain't that a trip? I'm a millennial. I'm a millennium. I'm a millennial.
You say you might be for the last millennium. So we together as one and make sure that we get Trump up out of there.
That's cool, but I like how we let you steer us from where we told Paul we were going to go for another 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Now here we are 27 minutes later, and you still didn't answer Vic's initial.
Exactly. He filibustered me, Candace. He filibustered me.
He did. That's why. But Vic, that's why he has the nickname Deep Blue.
Deep Blue.
That's why his nickname is Deep Blue.
That's right.
He's good at it. He's good at it.
I answered your question 40 ways to Sunday. I bet you I did answer.
No, brother, no. Pookie,
I do want to say though, because we're going to have to wrap up. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm going to give this round to Vic because Vic stayed on topic. So Vic automatically gets the round.
There you go.
Stayed on topic.
There you go.
I don't know, Mike. I'm just going to give it to Vic.
I want to send this message. I want to send this message out to the Biden-Harris campaign and say, you guys need to make your presence known up and down the I-75 corridor, going all the way down to Toledo, Ohio, to Detroit, to Pontiac, to Southfield, to Flint, to Saginaw. You need to make your presence known and leave no stone unturned. Go to Pookie and Rayway as well. Power to the people.
And for once, I'm going to agree with you, Brother Vic. Listen, we're in the fourth quarter, and we got to act like we're down by 5 points with 1 minute left in the game. We can't act like we already won this. Do not believe the polls. Act as though we're losing. This is what happened to Hillary Clinton. We can't let that happen again and take Black folks' vote for granted. I totally agree with that. But as a Black person, I've been contacted a million times, and I hope everybody else has too. But we got to get out there and get our vote to be counted.
Speaking of being down to the last minute, Deep Blue, Deep Blue, Deep Blue. We are literally down to the last minute here, okay? So what we're going to do, first of all, I want to thank all of everybody that tuned in. We actually had a lot of viewers and a lot of comments today. Whole lot of viewers, whole lot of comments. But because Deep Blue did not say on topic, we only heard from Hometown Hero today. But Carl was in the building, by the way, Mike. Carl was here. We had quite a few other people that did join us today. Thank everyone for joining us. You know what? I'm going to say that it's y'all because it's not me. You guys attract a lot of conservatives because it's not me. It's y'all. So, no, we appreciate everybody that tunes in, though. Greatly appreciate your opinion, whether we agree or not. The name of the show is Whose Opinion Is It Anyway? So we welcome opinions about the topic of the show, not the host, but the topic of the show.
No doubt.
For your opinions. Jeff, thank you. Jeff said good show, everyone. And so I want to give Vic 30 seconds, wrap it up.
Sure. You know what I say? It comes down to we the people. In order to make a more perfect union, it's going to have to go back to the people. We're going to have to stand our ground and speak our truth and infuse ourselves in the political process and get busy. Peace.
Mike, 30 seconds.
Hey, say no more. Listen, we're in the fourth quarter. You got to get out there and vote. You can vote right now today. Almost in every state that can hear me right now. Go vote today. Or if not, go vote tomorrow. You got a chance to vote. Make your vote heard. Peace, everybody.
All right. And I'm just going to end it with Michigan because we're in Michigan. You can go and vote. Early voting started yesterday. I did vote yesterday. A lot of people said, are we going to wait for the debate? I've already told you all it's not up for debate. My vote has been cast. It does not mean that I still will not critique where my vote was cast. But everybody else, if you've not had a chance to vote, you can go down to your clerk's office, or you can go down to the satellite office and you can vote in person. You can also get your absentee ballot. You can mail that in. If you're not comfortable with the mailing system right now, thanks, President, you can drop it in the brown. There should be a brown mailbox outside of your clerk or satellite clerk's office for you to drop that in, or you can personally walk into your clerk's office and drop it in a ballot box there for yourself. But the point is that voting is open. Everybody's voices need to be heard. We still live in a democracy until we lose it. So let's make sure we don't lose it. How about that?
Right.
Get out and go vote. I'm just going to leave it at my sentiment for you all is to go vote. I voted yesterday. D Blue said vote blue. We will see you all back here next Friday at 5 p.m. Jeff said he voted this week too. Awesome, Jeff. Thank you. So we'll see you back here next Friday at 5 p.m. for Whose Opinion Is It Anyway with Candace
and Victor
and our special guest host, Deep Blue. See you all next.
Deep Blue.